Guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Chelsea Explained, as this is your match preview ahead of Chelsea, Arsenal, and facing our London rivals who we haven't beaten for a long time. And I think we have won against them ever since Tuchel was here, which is crazy, and it has to change immediately. Even though we aren't our fully best now in terms of performances, we're looking completely flat up front. Completely toothless. We still have to find a victory somehow if we're gonna keep Champions League football alive. And it doesn't really help us if you're looking at previous stats or previous history against top 6 sides in recent years, against the likes of United, City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. Of course, we're always beating Tottenham because that's just written. That's just scripted. But it helps us though that Arsenal in a bit of shaky form. They're missing some key players. Saka is a huge one they're missing. Gabriel Jesus as well. But Arsenal still have so many ways to find a goal and win games. You know, they can score on set pieces, on counters. They struggle to some extent to break down low blocks, but we don't really defend and sit deep that much, barely ever. And they can also, press up really high with lots of intensity, force the opposition to make mistakes, which really worries me because we are the second ranked team in the league to make errors that has led to goals. It's only Southampton that is ahead of us. So I mean, if we're gonna collect a victory tomorrow away at the Emirates Stadium, we have to play to our best levels. We cannot make costly errors that will give Arsenal free opportunities. But the main thing, I want to focus on in this video is why I believe our attack is looking kind of flat. You know what? It's not really helping that Jackson and Madueke is injured. Are they lighting up fire here at Chelsea? I mean, they're playing decent, except for that Jackson can't finish to save his life. He's doing an incredible job in terms of pressing, in the link-up play, the chemistry he has with many players in this team, especially Cole Palmer. And he's so intelligent when it comes to moving into space and find a run behind opposition backline, etc. And that allows other players to gain more space to do something, especially when it comes to Cole Palmer. Madueke also very fast winger, very threatful, 1v1 missing in the attack. And Maresca has been forced to tweak things by, for example, playing Pedro Neto up front. He's playing Nkunku as a winger despite him saying the whole season that he can't play up front and he can't play as a winger. He's a pure number 10, but he still doesn't play him in a number 10 role. He still plays him as a winger. You could have just swapped him and Cole Palmer because Cole Palmer can play on the wing. He could have been a right winger, then you have Sancho on the left hand side. But, Maresca is a bit stubborn, as we know. I've been thinking of why we're struggling. Of course, we're struggling when we're missing Jackson and Madueke because they are very direct. They making runs in behind the back line. And the only player we have in the front four that does that consistently is Pedro Neto. But at the same time, he's not really a pure striker either. He's more of a winger. So I mean, we have a lot of players in the attack or in this lineup that do similar things. We have a lot of creative, technical players in terms of Sancho, Enzo, Cole Palmer. Nkunku is creative to some extent. We have tons of these guys, but we need more players then to take advantage of that by making runs or moving into maybe half spaces, the Manchester City assist zones, maybe moving into channels. We need better movement and chemistry overall and a defined way of how we want to create chances. And we struggle against low blocks. We heavily struggle when it comes to that against low blocks. Now, what can play into our favor though is that Arsenal plays with a high line. They want to control the game like we want to. And it's gonna be tons of space to run into behind. So maybe this game will be in our favor when it comes to go on counterattacks, only if Maresca allows the team to actually do that. But I think we're looking flat against low blocks for the reason I explained, that we have a lot of players doing similar things, so we have no one making enough runs in behind. So of course Maresca's responsibility to find solutions there in the attack, and maybe he's misprofiling some players as well, like Nkunku playing as a winger. But I think it's a problem also in terms of squad building. So when the summer comes, if the owners decide to continue with Maresca, they have to back him to some extent. They're gonna have to give him 3-4 players that he needs. Maybe he needs a focal point up front. Maybe he needs a false nine. I don't know what he needs, but you're gonna have to give him what he feels like is gonna suit his attack. And having attackers and forwards that actually complement each other play styles and also suiting the way Maresca wants to play. I would prefer having a big guy, rotating with Jackson, having like a big poacher target man that you can aim crosses at, because Maresca likes to utilize a lot of crosses inside the box, but we don't have any players that can take advantage of them consistently enough that helps us score goals. I mean, we have fantastic crossers in this team, in James, Pedro Neto, Cole Palmer, etc. But they have barely anyone to aim at. A lot of our attacks just going into complete waste. When it comes to the lineup, I think we're gonna see this one on screen here. I think he's gonna decide with Sanchez in goal. He has sort of clarified it. We're gonna see James Fofana back in the back four, Colwill, Cucurella as well in the back line. Fofana being back absolutely strengthen our team defensive wise. We're gonna see Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, and our front four gonna be Sancho, Nkunku, Palmer, Neto up front. I believe this is the lineup he will go for. Maybe takes a risk and play Lavia as instead of Sancho and having Palmer as a right winger. But I don't know if Lavia is 100% ready to start. I think this lineup is decent when it comes to counter-attacking football, and you can span those through balls on Pedro Neto, and you can have Cucurella overlapping and lurking on the left hand side. And Nkunku can drift inside. He can also make runs in behind, but I touched upon this before, but this would be my preferred lineup if I were to decide. I just picked Sanchez in goal because Maresca has already clarified he's gonna start. But the changes I will make is having Palmer as a false nine, because he is both a goal scoring threat and a creator. And if he drops down, the Arsenal defense or opposition defense in general has to decide whether they're gonna follow him or give him space and more time on the ball. If the Arsenal defender follows him, then we have runners in terms of Neto that can attack that space, or let's say Nkunku, he can be pretty decent at that. And then you can have Sancho playing, or Enzo Fernandez playing a through ball on Nkunku and Neto making runs in behind. That's just what I'm thinking. Palmer will also be difficult to mark, because that means he can roam around, do whatever he wants. He can drift to the flank, help out there, move into channels, move into half spaces, interchange positions with other guys. And Palmer is going to be very tricky to handle for Arsenal. I think that would actually suit him. And I think Palmer is also he has some feature that I really like about him. He's very good in terms of holding up the ball and not losing it. And a false nine definitely need that. So that's just how I'm thinking. Of course, I think our attack is not really completely building our attack yet, and Maresca gonna need help in the summer, because otherwise, you know, what's the point of being a manager if you can't get players you desperately need that's gonna suit your ideas and improve your team. Now let me know what you think of my thoughts. I've been touching about this in recent videos, but I really want to nail it down. Like, this is why I think we're struggling heavily against low blocks, and in recent games we have been passing the ball backwards and sideways like never before, and when you do that, you're allowing the opposition to get back into the shape and defend. So that he's saying that there is no space to attack the opponent behind is not completely true. There have been opportunities in games where we had the opportunity to actually go on counterattacks, but Maresca has mentioned that his players should pass sideways and backwards and not play long balls, which absolutely eliminate one of Enzo Fernandez's strongest abilities in this team. Personally, would really like if Maresca could be flexible and adaptable and allow some of these guys to have more freedom, because otherwise I think we're just gonna limit them and they're just gonna become robots. Some of these guys need a bit of freedom because they have that ability in the locker to create something out of nothing that maybe the opponent won't expect or can't stop. Palmer has of course also been out of form, hasn't scored for a while, missed a penalty last time in Premier League, and every player is gonna hit a dip of form. I'm pretty sure Palmer will be back to his normal self, but he's gonna have to simplify things and not try to do everything by himself. But I think also our whole attack is affected by Nico and Madueke not starting, and I think they're also affected by the misprofiling and the way we're playing, that we don't have a clear attacking patterns that suits our forwards. It's not only Cole Palmer that's struggling. Sancho is struggling, Nkunku is struggling. You can say that Neto and Tarek doing a decent job. But Neto has been playing out the position and he hasn't really been that involved in goals and assists this season. I think there's more to come from our attack if Maresca is willing to tweak stuff and if he gets help in the summer. In terms of a score prediction, I think it's going to be a very narrow game. I think both teams want to gain control, but they're gonna be cautious. We are susceptible making errors. Arsenal very good at pressing and they can score on set pieces, but we can do that as well. I think the game is gonna end 1-1, both teams getting a point, which would be, you know, a decent result, but I always want us to go and win. It's gonna be a real serious test tomorrow and we're gonna have to give everything. We have to give blood, sweat and tears if we're gonna have any chance of collecting a victory against our rivals, who is on another level in the current moment. I wouldn't be against even Tarek George being given a chance or even start for that matter. I think he has been very reliable. Sure, he is raw, but he's still a very young guy that has a lot to learn. Getting, you know, a victory here massively boosts our chances of potentially gaining Champions League football. This is going to be it for the video. If you're brand new here, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my page, hit that notification bell down below so you never miss when the content drops. And Chelsea Explained is out.